Welcome to the Expert in You podcast, the show for professional entrepreneurs, experts, authors, speakers, coaches, and consultants who are ready to elevate their business, expand their influence, and boost their bank accounts. Join us as we dive deep with industry-leading experts who share their top strategies, invaluable insights, practical tips, and personal experiences to help you achieve extraordinary growth and success. Whether you're looking to sharpen your skills, stay ahead of the curve, or find that competitive edge, this podcast is your ultimate resource for unlocking your full potential. So tune in, get inspired, grab your coffee, and let's unlock the expert in you. Hey, welcome back to another episode of Expert in You podcast. I'm your host, Carden, and I'm really excited to have my guest on today and let him share an incredible story, but also what he is doing in the contractor space. And Chris Gilman, welcome to my show.
Thank you, Ann. It's been a pleasure to get to see you in person. And, I'm excited about the podcast. So,
yeah. So first of all, Chris is starting, he has a show right now, but he is actually making a shift in his podcast, and it's going to be called Hard Hat to CEO, which is a new company that he is starting because he has built a lot of businesses. He has a lot of businesses currently, and he's going to start working with contractors and people that are in trades and coaching them. And I really love this, Chris, because I played in that world for a lot of years when I first became a business coach. And it is such a great way to build a coaching business, and they need help. And the thing I love about your program that you're going to be creating is helping them step out of really the job, the daily task, and step into that CEO role to build a company. But you're going even deeper with them. And we're going to talk more about his program and everything he's doing, but you're going deeper. And you're going to actually teach them how to become investors and build their wealth outside of their construction company or their contracting company. And I don't really see anybody out there doing that. So I think that's going to be amazing. And we're going to dive into all of the juicy stuff around that. So yeah, I'm super excited to have you here. So Chris,
thank
why
you.
don't
Yeah.
you have a backstory? And I would love for you to just go into kind of what you've done in the past and then what has brought you to this place in your business.
Well, I was in the corporate world back in 2001 and realized that actually I climbed the corporate ladder and ran out of rungs. So I never was going to own the company. Actually, I talked to the guy about buying it, and he said no. I was like, okay. Well, anyway, it was a multi-million dollar printing business. Anyway, so I knew that I had to do something, so I started a little side hustle with a friend, and we started flipping houses, and that's a lot of fun. Did that for a while. We took that money and invested it in rental properties, and kept buying and selling and all that good stuff. Got to a point where we were running out of properties to flip, so I got into building spec houses, and which
Mhm.
I found was a lot better. I enjoy it more because you don't have to fool with if anybody's ever remodeled, and I'm sure a lot of the contractors out there know what I'm talking about. You get into stuff you don't know what you're getting into. So new construction is a whole different animal and a lot faster, and usually no surprises. So got into that. One day, a guy come to me and said, "I want you to build my house." I was like, I don't know. I don't do custom homes. And when he showed me what somebody else gave him a quote for, and it's like, okay, because they were taking advantage of him. So
Mm.
that's okay. And he knew me, and he explained to me why he wanted me. And then when he showed me the numbers, like, yeah, this isn't right. So I gave him a bid, and that kind of started the whole custom side of things.
And how long ago was that, Chris?
The custom was back in 2017.
Okay.
Um, I started doing spec homes in 2000. Well, I guess it was 2015.
So you've been in that
And
world a long time. Yeah.
yeah. And I got out of I got out of the corporate world in 2011. So
Mhm.
anyway, that being said, I've learned a lot but in 2019, my dinner died. um,
I told you he has a story. So,
yeah, well, it was, I went to the I knew I was sick. I went to the
mhm.
doctor, and actually the one I wanted to go to was out that day. So I went to somebody else. I have a big chest, as you may or may not be able to tell, but I don't fit well in X-ray machines. And apparently, the place I went to had a hand-me-down, and they had a heck of a time. So on a Monday, I got X-rayed. Tuesday, I got a call that said, "Hey, you don't have any pneumonia." Okay. But they said, if you got any problems, just go to the emergency room. Wednesday, I ended up going to the emergency room. You barely walk in, and I had double pneumonia. So how did I have double pneumonia from Tuesday to Wednesday? And then they
Mm-hmm.
misdiagnosed basically. And I walked into the emergency room, and the nurse came to me and said, "Come with me." I said, "Well, I haven't filled out the paperwork yet." They said, "No, we'll do that later." And they took me and started taking my clothes off of me and sticking me with stuff and everything. But anyway, I woke up 2 weeks later, 105 miles away in St. Louis at another hospital. I'd almost died. They transported me to St. Louis.
Wow.
My mom's convinced if I hadn't went to St. Louis, I wouldn't have made it. Matter of fact,
Mm-hmm.
they told my daughter and my wife that if I woke up, so it wasn't even, it was if I woke up from the coma,
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably have brain damage. So
Wow.
that's pretty stressful on them, but probably just as much as stressful was the fact that I had everything in my head. All those businesses
Mm.
I got 5 LLCs. Each one has its own checking account, blah, 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 and everything was in me. So that's how I recovered. And my wife, and thank the Lord, we're a small community. The bank was able to work with my wife and get that all straightened out. We had a house going on and some other projects.
Mm. People still had to get paid and
People had to get paid.
all those
You
things.
had
Yeah.
this, you got the monthly bills, you got
Mm-hmm.
things to do. I think in some ways got taken advantage of because she didn't know any different and
Mm-hmm.
so forth. I have rental properties that I was managing. So you got rental, I mean, people, my water heaters, no, that type of stuff. I get all these horror stories that when you were asleep, it's like, okay. So I realized, and I got to sit in the hospital for a week after I woke up from the coma. They wouldn't let me go home. And I got to thinking about that wasn't really fair to them. They were stressed out about me dying.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was having to deal with all my other stuff.
Right. Right. Wow. What a story.
So today, I have a team.
Mm-hmm.
I don't manage. I have a manager for my rental properties,
Mm-hmm.
and I have teams that work for me as far as construction crews. Uh, I have a manager of the construction crew. I have a
You're a
bookkeeper.
CEO. You're
I'm a CEO.
and you're
I
not
have a
just a CEO
bookkeeper.
for one company, you're a CEO for multiple
That
companies
is
that you're
correct.
running.
So,
Yes. You're living, you're walking your talk.
not a lot of people know this, but last year I had a quadruple bypass. It wasn't planned on, obviously, but
Wow.
my wife and children didn't have any troubles. They
Mm-hmm.
knew. They said, "Dad, you're going in. We don't want this to happen again." And I said, "You know who to call. Call so and
Mm-hmm.
so. Call so and so." And I went under the. I was in the hospital for a week with
Mm-hmm.
no glitches, and it just became natural that everybody's doing their own job. They know what to do, and there's always stress, but there was no stress about the
Okay.
fact that I was going to the doctor and
Yeah.
the business is not being taken care of.
So through all of that adversity, really, you were able to turn that. I always say, God works in mysterious ways, right? And he uses
Yes, he does.
everything for the good. But
Yeah.
through that, now you're actually starting another entity of your business, another company where you're going to coach other people to help them be able to become CEOs in their companies. And we never know what could happen. And so if everything is dependent on us and evolves around us. I mean, I learned that many years ago in my businesses that it couldn't be just me. That's not a business, that's a job, by FYI. And
Right.
so you cannot be in that situation where everything will fall apart or nothing will happen if something happens to you
Well,
or in
a lot of my clients, I would, well, I guess I decided, yes, to take on coaching. I thought it'd be nice to help other
Mhm.
people in the same situation I was in as far as
They
all
need
the different,
it.
yeah,
Yes.
helping them figure out how to do that and create that team that become that CEO of their company.
Mhm.
And a lot of my clients today, well, one guy his partner got sick
Mhm.
and he was doing double work. And, and then how do you split that up with your partner? It's just it's an
Right.
ongoing thing. And, you have to decide, okay, how can my business because people do get sick as you get older, or
Sure.
just like
Things
me, or
happen. That's
things
right.
happen. One guy fell off the ladder, cracked his ribs,
Mm-hmm.
and couldn't do the job as fast, or couldn't do it at all for a couple
Mm-hmm.
weeks. How are
Right.
you going to handle that? How do you work with that? Your family's still waiting on your paycheck, especially a lot of dual income family households today
Yeah,
require
life
that.
doesn't stop, does it?
No,
And
and
business doesn't, well, it could stop, but yeah, you don't want that to
we don't want
stop.
that to happen. It could stop you
Right.
exactly if it,
Right.
um, in some cases, and no, you don't want that.
Mm-hmm.
You just gotta have help. You gotta have faith and delegate and
Mm-hmm.
communication training and all that good stuff is part of the program, you know. But
Yeah.
you free up your time first. That's kind of the basis of my programs. You gotta have time.
Right.
And people say, I don't have enough time. Well, you
There's a
have time.
problem
You just
there.
gotta, yeah,
Right.
that's your first
Yeah. If
problem.
you don't have time or money, you've got a problem. It's
Yeah.
an
So then,
underlying problem. Yes.
yeah. So we have to look at that and figure out, okay, what do you, not necessarily wasting your time, but not
Mhm.
being the best use of your time.
Right.
And then we identify that and then delegate it to a team or figure out ways to free up that time. And it's not always a
Mhm.
team. That is the next step, but it could be equipment, could be software, it could be whatever.
Could be a
Um,
lot of things. Yeah.
yeah, it just depends on your situation. But then, so the next step, I'm going to go into my program. That's all right. Just tell you kind of
Yeah.
how things
Actually,
work.
before
Yeah,
you do that, though,
sure.
Chris, I just want to ask you a quick question. Why do you think a lot of people don't move to CEO? Why do you think they still stay stuck in the job? Like if you think back to when you were doing that, what was your thinking? What was your mindset at that time? And why do you think people don't do
I
what you're
think it's because
talking
of our
about?
education system primarily.
I agree with that.
We teach people to be employees.
Yes. For
And
themselves even, right.
yeah, and there's nothing wrong with being an employee if that's what you want to do. But if you
Mhm.
want, some time freedom and, not everybody can be a business. I used to think everybody could be a business owner, and that's not
Mm-mm.
true. That
No,
is not
no.
true.
And why be a business owner though, if you're gonna work a job for yourself? If you're
Yeah,
gonna be an
yeah.
employee in your own business,
Um,
why?
Years ago, actually, in the 2001 area when I got that little side hustle stuff, I started doing those flipper homes. I read Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad. That was a
One of
big
my
one.
favorite books. Yes.
Absolutely. And then he has a cash flow quadrant book as well. Now, which he
Yes.
talks about in the first book, but he goes more in
Yeah.
depth in the second one. And you got that one side where you're either an employee or you're self-employed.
Yes. So
And
true.
in theory, it's no different. And they don't really help you on the tax. The government wants you to be, and I say that, I don't know if they want you to be or not, but if you're on that side of the quadrant, a
Hmm.
self-employed, you're kind of tied with your taxes.
Yes, you're
You only can do
dependent.
so much. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they want you to be a business owner. That's on the other side, and that's where
Yeah.
we're at now. Or a lot of guys need to take that self-employment and then make it a business,
Hmm.
transfer over, and then once you get that business started, then they get trapped in that then you create another job type thing. Not
Right.
only not only is it a job, not only is it owning a business, you're working for the business, and that's not the right thing either. So we want to make you
Yeah.
a business owner and then take that business ownership, become the CEO. And once you're that
Mhm.
CEO, then you can move into that investor point. Now,
Yes.
that business you're creating is a cash flow machine. We're creating that machine to generate the cash so you
Mhm.
can generate more than you're spending,
Yes.
invest it, and then let the investments bring your money in. And you don't have to, you can either sell that business or you
Yes.
can keep the business, but, be less involved with it. There's a lot of different ways to do that. And that's everybody has their own opinion on how they want to do it, and everybody has their own dreams on how it works. That's okay. And
Yeah.
everything you just plan and communicate. That's really two of the big ones.
Yes, I love that you were talking about this because it definitely is a next step. And I think a lot of people get into their business, they're good at something, they figure it out and they kind of muddle through. And then next thing they know, they've kind of built something, but they're still stuck. They're still stuck in that trap. And a lot of times they're not thinking, okay, if I do decide at some point I don't want to do this anymore, or they think that's their only thing, right? This is my
Yeah.
main thing, and they're not thinking bigger, and they're not thinking about, okay, how can I create cash flow? How can I build my wealth? How can I multiply my money? How can I do all of those things outside of this business? So if something like a pandemic happens, a worldwide pandemic happens, and all
Yeah.
of a sudden your business has to be shut down, you've got other ways you're bringing in money. You've got other
Yeah.
ways. You're not dependent on one way anymore. So
Wow.
that is really one of the things I love about your program. And I really want to dive into that deeper is you're not just helping them move into CEO. It's called Hard Hat to CEO, by the way. That is the name of his program. But
Yes.
the top rung on your program is, okay, now you've built this business. Now you're the CEO. We don't want you to get bored. Now, what are you going to do to multiply your money, build your wealth, do other businesses, and not be tied to this one business? And so, yeah, we'll talk more about that.
Well, back, and I'm going to talk about being bored. This is a long time ago. That business I wanted to buy, we took it from when I became the production manager and president. We went from 12 million up to 22 million when I left, and went to the owner of the company, who was a family-owned business. I said, you probably don't want to hear this. I'm the highest priced employee you have, and I'm bored.
Yeah.
And not that I did it. I delegated enough to everybody else that they knew what to do.
Yeah, but that's how you multiply.
Yeah, and that's how we got to where we were at. And people like us, business owners, if you're a business owner, you're a little more different than other people. You're willing to take chances. You're willing to think ahead, dream. And I want you to be bored in your business so you can look at other things.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And being bored doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It means you figured out the secret sauce to business and building wealth. And, I always like to say, Chris, your business is like a money tree. You can grow that money tree as much as you want. And here's the thing, it's not all about money. It's about generational wealth. It's about your future. You had a situation where you were sick. Along with that comes medical bills. There are many reasons why, if you've been called to business or entrepreneurship, there are many reasons why you should be looking at that as, okay, I've been called to really build wealth here for a lot of reasons. And people don't think big enough, in my opinion. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. Yes, I absolutely agree with that. I'm going to give you a couple of disclaimers. I'm not an insurance agent. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an accountant. But that being said, I want you to have an orchard of money trees.
Yes.
And my accountant calls it multiple streams of income. And my tax paperwork is really thick. I said, we want a copy of it. No, you don't. Some people say, well, it's like, okay, I'll bring it to you. You copy what you want, but I'm not making copies for you. Well, you said something about healthcare. If you look at the tax codes and they get to where they go, as a business, you can write off more than you can as a self-employed employee.
Yes.
Healthcare expense, whatever it is. And then there's laws, and you got to ask your accountant how they want to do it and so forth. But I can write off a whole lot more through my business than I can through my personal accounts.
Right. Right.
And then the other thing I love to say is that you want to own nothing but control everything. So you own all these businesses, these entities. You control them, but you don't own them, in the fact that your assets are owned by entities that can protect you from liabilities and so forth. And that's where your lawyer plays a game. That's all that stuff. But that's when we get into that part in the program, I don't give you advice. I tell you what I do, and that's how it works for me. Contact your own lawyer and then talk to them about what they suggest for you. And
but you're still teaching them things they don't know. They're not aware of, and they haven't
never knew to ask.
Yes, they didn't even know that. They didn't even know that they didn't know it. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So that's all the type of the part of the program.
Yeah.
I think
I love it. An orchard of money trees.
That's
even better. I'm going to use
orchard of money trees. Yeah. I learned the hard way.
Yeah, I'm going to steal that.
So my cohorts, my people I teach or coach, I try to help them avoid those mistakes I made.
Yeah. And I think that's a lot of times business coaching. That's where my heart is. That's what inspired me to become a business coach and consult people as well, because I didn't want them to make all the mistakes I made through the years. I didn't have access to business coaches and people for a lot of years in all my businesses. I was figuring things out myself, and we didn't even have access to the things we have available today. I couldn't just type things in, and that information was just at my fingertips. And I used
this podcast, is everything.
Yes. I used to have to order, cassette tapes so I could learn things and order books so I could learn.
Yeah.
It was just a different world. And I made a lot of mistakes and there were a lot of pitfalls, and I made my businesses harder than they needed to be because I didn't know a lot of the things that I now teach people. And so that's where my heart is. And I knew when the first time I talked to you, Chris, that's where your heart was too, is like, I know we want to pass that on. We want to pass that on to other people. It's just, I always say, first you learn, then you do, then you teach. Learn, do, teach is sort of the order of things. And so the highest level in business really is when you're teaching other people what you have now learned to help them have success, when you're kind of giving that hand down. So anything you want to add to that before we dive into your program, because I really want to go through it and share it with people. It's so awesome.
No, well, I'm sure there's something that'll come along as we talk about the program. I try not to delve off into those little rabbit holes because, sometimes you never come out. But
We could
no, I
talk
think
all
we're
day,
good.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, well, how long we got?
Yeah.
But no, I'm good. We can continue on with
Okay.
I call it a pyramid, and at the
Yeah.
top is your CEO, and we can talk about the things in between.
Yeah. So why don't you go through? So it's 5 steps, 4 steps, 5 steps,
5 steps.
5
Hard hat.
steps that
Yep.
you,
Five.
so
Yeah.
5 main phases really that, and I like to call them buckets or
Yeah.
part of his method. So the things that he takes people through, and within each of those things, there's a lot of things that go on in there, but these are the 5 main things in his framework or in his method. So
Yeah.
hard hat to
It's
CEO, Chris, go
mhm.
ahead and start. What's the ground? What's the bottom?
It's the overall premise. It's time. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm speaking big. I'm a big picture person, but there's a whole lot more to that just than time. Um, you got to free it up,
Mm-hmm.
create it for other people too. It's just
Right.
not your time. It's identifying as well things that you're good at
Mm-hmm.
and things that you enjoy. I like to say just because I can do doesn't mean I should. I can do a
Mm-hmm.
lot of things. I can wire a house, plumb a house.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I can build a house, but I shouldn't be. I got
So,
people to do that.
so you help them get time back right from the
Get
beginning.
time
You
back the way it
dive
is. Yep.
into that with them. You figure out where's their time going, what could they be doing differently, and you help them start getting time back immediately.
The main goal is to get them out of their daily grind
Okay.
and let them focus on the business itself.
Right.
You don't, sometimes you're so busy or you get tired and when you come home, that's the last thing you want to do. We
Sure.
want to free up your time so you can focus on building your business.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's a cliche sometimes, but we building your business instead
Mm-hmm.
of working in your business.
Yeah.
That's important because if you're out there doing the daily stuff, you don't have time to be looking at teams. You sometimes don't even realize what you're doing yourself is taking up
Right.
time.
Well, not only that, your business is only going to go so far. I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
that's just the reality. If you're the driver of your business, you're the visionary, you're the driver, you're the person that will make the biggest decisions on what's going to happen with that business. If you don't have thinking time, if you don't have strategy time, if you can't even get beyond what's going on every single day, putting out fires or whatnot, and be proactive in your business, it is only going to go so far. There's not really a chance for high success.
no, I was on a podcast the other day. We talked about sales. Can a company? Well, we know a company cannot resist on or without sales they can't survive.
Right.
And you need to focus on sales.
Mm-hmm.
Now that might not be you in the future, but that's your number one goal. But if you're
Mm-hmm.
out doing the work, you're not bringing in new work.
Right.
So that's just part of the deal. Time is a big factor there.
Hi, friend. I have an exciting announcement. I hope you're enjoying this episode of Expert in You podcast, but I have to ask you, have you checked out the latest issue of Expert in You magazine yet? It's jam-packed with rich content, powerful strategies, inspiring stories, and so much more to help you elevate your business and personal growth. Don't miss out. Go grab your digital copy now and join our community of experts making a difference every day. Go to expertinyoumagazine.com and check out your digital copy today. Transform your expertise into success with Expert in You magazine. It's not just a publication, it is a movement.
And the next step, once you get that time figured out, and it could be there's a I don't want to say it's just not a clear step. Sometimes there's a slow intervention to get from one step to the other. But
Right.
we focus on team
Mm-hmm.
and we identify once we get that time thing, we'll do a little survey and figure out where your time's spent at. That can be either delegated or save by doing something else, or
Mhm.
sometimes it's buying a tool that makes it faster or whatever. But we focus on the team and allows you either to focus on sales, but if that's something you don't like, then we'll go find us a salesperson or something to
Right.
that
So
effect.
it's filling the team around your strengths,
Absolutely.
really, is what you're
Absolutely.
talking about. Yeah, building. And what would you say? I know a lot of people, again, I worked in the contractor space for a lot of years. I know people that would say, well, I tried hiring or I tried doing that and it didn't go well, or it made it more work for me. And now I know what I would say to that because I help people through this, but I would love to know what would you say to that, Chris?
Well, take your time, hire
Hmm.
the right person. Just because we're looking for one don't mean they have to hire them tomorrow.
Hmm.
Do some research as far as there's some psychological tests out there, DISC, for example, or some free ones
Hmm.
out there that, and nobody knows what it means. There's really 4 personality types. And
Hmm.
before you go looking for somebody, identify that personality. I made these mistakes myself. Lord knows I
Right.
know.
And you help people through all of this.
Yes,
You really teach them how to build a
absolutely.
high
Because
performance team.
what
Yes.
type of person, you know, what type of person do you need to fill that position?
Yes.
And you go out and you identify some of those, can take the test, for example, but sometimes they slip through. Sometimes you gotta let
Hmm.
people go. Sometimes it's just moving people on the bus. When I
Yes.
talk about that is that
Move
if
them around to
yeah, move them
something
around.
else. Hmm.
Maybe you might have hired them for the wrong purpose reason,
Hmm.
but you might be able to use them in a different spot they're more suited for.
I did that for a lot of years in my business. I would bring somebody in thinking I was going to do this thing with the person, but then I found out
Yeah,
a better fit over here. Doesn't
they're a
mean
good
you have to let
employee.
people
Yeah,
go. Yeah, move them.
yeah, move them around. I like that. I prefer that first, especially if they're a good person and a
Of course.
good team
Yeah.
member, obviously.
Yes.
Sometimes you get that bad apple, and hopefully by a smaller company in your building, you kind of help that. But
Hmm.
as you have a team, there's one way of I like to do is I like the team to help interview that person,
Hmm.
kind of get the feel for them. Do you like this person? Do you get along with them? So forth. Setting clear expectations and communication is important too for that team, as far as
Hmm.
not having to get rid of them or they're causing you grief. And
Hmm.
then one thing you got to look at, and I talk about, well, actually, in another podcast, I mentioned you're kind of a mirror. And I mean by that is that what you take in is what you reflect back. So what's important to know is, do they understand what you want? And do you understand, do they have a clear expectation? And then the last part is, are you micromanaging them?
Hmm.
Empower them.
Right.
Empowerment's a big deal because they might be bugging you just because they don't know, or they feel they're going to be in trouble, whatever it
Right.
is. Yeah.
Right.
So I like to tell my people, listen, I want you to make a decision because I'm busy. Like right now, I'm being recorded.
Yeah. You're getting, so you
Don't
are
interrupt me.
mentoring them.
Yeah. So
Yes. Yeah.
I want you to make a decision.
Hmm.
You're not going to get, I mean, there's make certain levels of decisions, but you're going to
Sure.
make a decision. And here's the parameters of that. If I don't like what you decided, I want to let you know that how I'd want it done next time.
Right. See, and that's how you train people up. And if you don't do that, and you mentioned micromanaging people, if you don't ever empower people or give them any kind of leadway, you're just actually making more work for yourself because now that team's
Oh
not
yeah.
doing what you're hiring them to do
Yeah.
anyway.
You got to not only manage them, then you got to
Right,
manage
now
the
you're
job you're
managing,
doing.
yes, exactly,
It's like,
what's
oh my
defeating the
gosh.
purpose, yeah, and that's where systems, and I know we'll talk about that, but that's, so all of these things build on each other, and none of this stuff is fast, but it also can be faster when you're working with someone. I just know when you're working with a coach, it can be faster, it can be easier, it can be less stressful because now you have support and guidance to make the right moves, make the right decisions. And then if you do get stuck or you do get into a challenge along the way, you've got someone to support you through that and guide you through that. So you're not just trying to wing it and figure it out. And that's what so many people in business, that's why the failure rate's so high in business.
Absolutely.
So,
One of the biggest parts before I go on to the next level is in the team, as you mentioned the systems.
mhm,
Systems is important. Policies, procedures. You know,
yes.
well, I don't have any of those. Well, the wonderful thing about today is ChatGTP. Have them create one and then go through it and you read it and decide what you like and what you don't like. It's your
Mhm,
company and get rid of it and add stuff. I mean, sometimes you just get started, you'll blame. That's when your brain starts
mhm,
thinking of things that you wouldn't thought about as long as you had a little seed intervention. And that's what chat, chat
mhm.
Chat GTP is good for. So
It's a good starter. Yeah.
yeah, get a good starter and go from
Okay.
there.
So what's the third step for people
The
or
third step is money, and primarily cash flow. It gives you more time too, though. Now you can focus
Mhm.
on your income and your expenses
So you
and
kind of
looking
help
at the
them with the
jobs
financial side of that
and the
too.
financial side of
Okay.
that. If they don't have a bookkeeper,
Mhm.
it, you should have a bookkeeper by the time we get the team. But if you don't
Right.
by now, we definitely want one.
Hmm.
And that way you can talk about things. I was talking to my accountant the other day. It's in the year when in talking, we're talking about taxes and the new elections and so forth. And I said, I'd much rather talk to you about how to run my business and make more money than about taxes. He
Yeah.
said, yeah, that's a lot more fun to talk about. So you're damn right it is. So,
Yes.
so yeah, so we go talk about how to make more money, read
Hmm.
those reports and so forth, get an idea of where you're at. Cash flow is that's probably I do well at it. I have an accountant. My bookkeeper helps me with that. I find the cash flow report the hardest one to read because you're
Hmm.
projecting,
Right.
whereas the income statement's an actual, here's what happened type thing. But cash flow is very important because you got to know when it's going to go out, plan for that,
Right.
so forth. And you need to know what your bills are going to be so you
Hmm.
can kind of project, make sure everything's there.
Yes. But it also drives your sales. It should be driving your
Absolutely.
revenue as
Yeah, you
well.
got to
And
know where's projections and you know where
yeah.
you're at.
And if you don't know, and this is an attitude, it sounds ridiculous, but this is an attitude of a lot of people in business. It's like they actually ignore this financial side of it because they kind of don't want to know. Okay, that's a
That's true.
problem. You
But
cannot run a
that's
business that
stress.
way.
And by knowing you
It
cause less
is.
stress.
Yeah,
And that sounds
you can't manage
yeah,
what you don't know, right? So yeah, you can manage if you can monitor it, you can manage it, and that then you can drive it. That's what I like to say. You have to
and
be
I'm not saying you have to. You have
right,
to be able to
exactly.
understand it.
But as a
And you,
CEO,
that's
yes.
right. You
Yeah.
understand it and you have a person to talk to about it.
Yes.
And you got to have it. One of my old boss years ago, he told me what gets managed gets or what gets measured gets
Yes.
improved. And like, yeah, that's true. We focus on something and you focus on it, it just happens to improve itself just by
Correct.
inertia almost. And that sounds silly, but that's truth.
No, it's
It's just,
very true.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And
So
then what's the next step?
well, once you got the financial part, so you got your team established, they're doing their thing, they know the daily stuff that they're
Mhm.
required to do. You got your money coming in, you got pretty good control on that. Then we focus on the freedom and what can be done to get you completely out of your
Mm,
data. Yeah,
the
that's the fun
dream.
part. Yeah, how
The
much? What do
dream.
you want to do? I mean, and that's you are right when you say dream to dream because everybody's
Mhm.
dream's different. I had he was old. I had a mentor, and he liked coming into work every day. And he didn't
Mhm.
do much, and I don't mean that because mean like. I mean
He just enjoyed it. Yeah.
he
Yeah,
enjoyed
but
coming
you
in
get to
talking to
pick.
people.
You get
Yeah,
to pick
that
what
was
you
his choice.
do. Yes,
Yeah,
you have choices.
and
Yes.
the other thing he enjoyed doing was taking his wife on vacations.
Mhm.
I remember one time he come in, and I was up on the second floor, and he walked with a cane, and you always hear him come. Every footstep was that cane going down.
Uh-huh.
And I said, "Here comes Ovid." That was his name. I said, "How was your trip to Africa?" And he actually brought me. I have it over here a wooden um, zebra from Africa. He got
Mm.
me a souvenir, and so Ovid, I said, "Did I see any? Did you take any pictures?" He said, "Chris, they're all up here." He pointed to his head, and that's how wise he was. He goes, "No, I enjoyed everything. I don't have to have
Mhm.
pictures to remind me of
It
that."
was an experience. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's how he wanted to run his business.
Uh-huh.
But some people now another boss who loved to go on vacations, and he would be gone for a while. But the best part was I was his right hand man,
Mhm.
and he could go on vacation, not have to worry about anything because I was taking care of it. And he asked me one day, he said, Why do you want to own a business?" I said, "Because I want to be like you. I want to have a Chris."
Mhm.
Huh. And he shook his head. It's like, yeah,
Yeah. I
that
don't want to
makes
be the
sense.
Chris. I want to have
That's
one.
right. So that's what I want you
Yeah.
to, I want in the freedom side to get to that stage. Decide how
Yes.
you want your dream to work in your business.
Yeah.
So that other thing's taken care of. And that's the freedom part. And to me,
Absolutely.
money is important and it is important. but that's not, you hear the story about how much money you can have in the world, and that's important.
Mhm.
But if you're working for it or doing whatever, and you don't have the time to
Yeah, if
enjoy
you
it,
have no life to
yeah, if you
enjoy.
have no life, that is not it. And if you want to spend time
Yeah.
with your family, um,
Right. It's not at the cost of everything else.
right.
You've been married a lot of years. I've been married. We just celebrated 43 years of marriage. And, I've built 7 businesses through all of that. Now,
Yeah,
so to me, it's not giving, and I have 2 great kids and 4 grandkids, and it's not about giving up everything else to make money. It's about how to have that balance in your life so that everything can work, so you can have it all. And
that's
you
right.
can give back, and there's just so much more to life than working a job to make money.
Right. Absolutely. I told a story the other day. Have I told anybody this before in another podcast? And we talked about when I was growing up, I had my grandmother, and as long as I can remember, she never had a job. Not that she didn't work, but my grandfather and her put a lot of money in CDs. And
Mhm.
in the 70s and 80s, that's when the interest rates are crazy, and there, she was living off that income, for example. But I got to go home and spend time with her before school, after school, and during the summers.
Mhm.
And I have that ability today to do the same thing for my grandchildren.
Mm.
Now, my kids, I haven't got figured out that they don't think I work because they don't. I'm on a podcast or I'm at home. Well, Big Poppy can handle it. Well,
Walking the talk.
yeah. So yeah, Big Poppy can handle it, but I do things. And it's hard to understand, but I love spending time with my kids, and I
Yeah.
love even better having. I'm glad they're out of the house, and I love my little grandbabies. But anyway, that's part of the freedom choice. So,
Mhm. So true.
but now we've come to the pinnacle of the old pyramid there, and that's
Mhm.
CEO. And in my world, chief chief executive, you get to just make decisions, and you're making decisions along the way, but these are
Mhm.
bigger decisions on that level. You got your money, you got your freedom. What do you want to do? Do you want to travel? Do you want to?
Mhm.
But more importantly, is to plan your life the way you want it, but also figure out ways to create that orchard of money trees, as you call it.
Right.
Multiple streams. The one that I guess in college, my business courses, this is what really got me going on this. And I never really thought about it. But you ever go in a grocery store and you see other products made by a restaurant that you could buy there and on right there?
Right.
Chili's happened to be one of the ones that I had to do.
Yeah.
You can buy the salsa, for example.
Sure.
That was ways that companies generated more income with the things they already had.
Right.
And that's like,
Yeah.
okay, that makes sense.
Mhm.
So that's actually how I got into the construction business. I was flipping homes. How can I generate more income with what I'm doing?
Mhm.
And, even as a construction owner, you can buy properties. You got the crews. You can go buy the
Mhm.
properties. You're paying your crews anyway. Go and have them flip them, or even
Mhm.
build spec homes if you had to. If you
Yeah.
wanted to. That's just a couple different things. There's all kinds of ideas. Just taking the money and investing in
Yes.
assets
Yeah.
is the easiest one.
Or all of it. Um,
Yeah, there's.
yes.
I mentioned I have multiple LLCs.
Yes.
That's what you do. You put the money in
I
different ones.
I love that you're talking about this because I teach this principle as well. It's like you don't have to start 100 different things that are disconnected. There's
No,
opportunities from your core, either your core, like your core in knowledge is what I was trying to say, and experience, and you can build out from that. And if you look at this, if you look at the progression of what he's talking about, he has rentals. It's still in that core of his business. He flips. It's still in that core of his business. He has his construction company. It's still in that core. Now he's going to do coaching in the construction industry and in that field. It's still in that core of what he does. So it's not disconnected. I do the same thing in my business. We write people's books, we launch their podcasts, we put them in, I have a magazine, I have all these things. Why? Because those are all assets that my clients will need. And that's how all of that expert in you marketing and media agency side started getting built, because I don't want to be sending them off other places. I can build onto what I'm already doing in my coaching and consulting business. So it's
well,
finding those opportunities and then implementing them. And then you've got multiple revenue streams coming into your business.
it's the same thing. You go back to that orchard thing that each tree can generate the fruit.
Yes.
And depending on what the business is, but I'm going to simplify it. But basically, a tree has its taproot. That's your main source of
Mm-hmm.
water. But then it
Yep.
has other roots on the outside, and those are other
Yeah.
things that have to do with that same taproot. And then
Mm-hmm.
that produces the fruit in the tree. But
Yeah.
each tree is a different type of entity or whatever. And each tree, it has its own source of income. But in college, in business courses, they talk about being a vertical company, focusing narrow and deep.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Mm-hmm.
once you get to that point, then you can expand out and go wide.
Right. A lot of people do that before they're ready to do that too.
Yeah, you gotta go deep first and then go wide.
Yes. I find a lot of entrepreneurs or business owners, they're looking for the next thing and they haven't really they haven't optimized and maximized what their core business is or their real opportunity there. They're just looking for other ways to make money, but actually what they're doing is they're losing focus. And until you build this to the point, like you said, you get bored. Okay, now
Mhm.
I'm ready for this. Or you see something that's a natural fit that needs to be added, then you add that, but you don't go out doing a lot of different things before you get something really successful. And I think a lot of people make that mistake.
The other thing that you can do with your money is joint venture, like
Yes.
consolidate with,
Hmm.
you know, uh, Chick-fil-A. Then you
Yes.
have investors come in. If you want to put that money towards Chick-fil-A with a group of
Yes.
people, or this is what I'm doing now. I am investing in, let's say, real estate groups.
Hmm.
So if you walk into a hotel and you see that little sign that's owned by a certain real estate group, that's a
Hmm.
group of guys come together about that, and they have a whole group of them. Now, like
Right.
multi-residential, that's
Hmm.
basically apartment buildings and so forth. But that's the same thing that you put that money in. You might not have enough for everybody, but you can have a good chunk to be part of
Yes.
it. That's
Yeah.
another play the game. You
Yes.
get to travel to go look at those type.
Hmm.
In my case, you get to travel to look at those properties and so forth, and
Hmm.
all that is tax deductions
Yes. No,
and
so
extended
good.
vacations. However, you talk to your accountant about that, but that's what saying. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. So true. And if you aren't, again, if you're not thinking this way or you don't even have any idea where to start, it is a series of steps and there's a sequence and there's an order to how things have to be done. And so that's really how your program is structured, to take people from, okay, here's where you start. And everybody's going to be in a little bit different place, but you're going to figure out for them in a customized way what's going to be the best thing for them to do. And then you're going to
Absolutely.
guide them and support them and coach them so that they can get to that top level, that CEO, and then that investor status, and then help them figure out, you've already done it. You're already doing it. You're walking the talk. You didn't, and I think I think it's going to be great for you, Chris. I think you're going to be phenomenal with this program, and I think people are going to be so fortunate, and they're going to learn so much from working with you, and even just listening to this podcast, they're going to learn so much. You're going to open up their mind.
And
So,
some of my group, they come to me and they've already got the team, so they've already got the
mhm,
time issue and the team. They just need a little
right.
finessing, and then they want
Yes.
to go up the ladder, up the
Yes.
pyramid scheme. So you don't
Yeah.
have to be start at the bottom or just be new if you need some
Yeah.
help or
And really, you're not looking for people that are brand new to business anyway. You're looking for
no, because
people that are
they
ready to
gotta get
go.
established. I mean,
Yeah.
you gotta have that sales. That's the important
Yeah.
part.
And the other thing too, and I think it's important to know, and this is not something you really talk about until somebody's in your program, but when you have gone through all of these things, people don't realize you've already got resources built. So if
Yeah,
they say, oh, I would like to invest or I would like to do this, hey, I've already done it here. This is who I use. This is how I've done it. You've already built up those resources. And that's so valuable. That's like literally, I have a friend that talks about cutting to the front of the line. That's like cutting to the front of the
yeah.
line. And she says, don't go up the ladder, like skip rungs on the
Skip
ladder.
rungs. Yeah,
Yes, and
take
that's
the
really,
elevator.
yeah, that the elevator. I always say, so my whole thing is, why would you take the horse and buggy when you could take a jet plane? I mean,
Yeah,
let's think
yeah.
about that for a minute. So we all have our things. Um, but no, it's so true. And I think it's going to be so valuable. So your plan is you're going to be getting out there speaking, you're going to be doing some networking, but you're really looking to speak and really get this out there. And again, people need this help. They really need this. I think so many people want this, but they don't even know who to go to help them get to this level in their business. So hard hat to CEO. I absolutely love it. I wish I would have thought of that way back when I was helping contractors and working with them. And I think it's going to be amazing for people. What else would you like to say, Chris, before we wrap this up? This has been a great show.
Well, I'd like to thank you for your time today. And anybody listening who would like to reach out to me, they can go to LinkedIn and Facebook and look up Chris Gilman and Hard Hat the CEO. I have a website as well as my podcast. That's hardhattheceo.com.
Yes.
That's my little plug. I appreciate that.
No, we'll put all that in the show notes.
Okay.
So you'll be able to get all those links in the show notes. Absolutely.
Excellent.
And
No, enjoyed. This is great. And a lot of people don't know. And I wish I'd known.
yeah. Oh, same here. Same here. That's where our passion and our heart comes from.
Yeah.
We want to do this with other people for sure. So it's been great. People would be so blessed to work with you, Chris. And I've gotten to know Chris, and he is such a great guy. He walks the talk. He's the real deal. He's genuine. He's a man of faith, and he has so many good attributes. And he's got an amazing story. He's come through it. I mean, most people don't have that kind of a story, Chris. Almost died and coming back and all that. So I think you're gonna help so many people, and I can't wait for you to get this out there.
Thank you, Ann.
You are welcome. Thanks for being my guest. And until next time, everyone, have an amazing day. God bless you. Go rock your business. And by the way, share the episode. Sharing is caring. And we want more people to hear about Chris and also about Expert in Your podcast. So have an amazing day. Bye-bye. Thank you for tuning in today. If you're as excited as I am about scaling up your influence, business, and bank account, then I have just the thing for you. But first, make sure you subscribe to the show. Second, make sure you share it with someone you care about, because sharing is caring. And third, head on over to join me in my next free virtual exclusive workshop, where we'll explore proven strategies to boost your business and maximize your potential. Look, it doesn't matter if you're just starting out or if you're looking to take your business to the next level. My workshops are designed for you. So head on over to expertinyourworkshop.com to reserve your spot and get ready to transform your expertise into extraordinary success. I'm looking forward to seeing you there and helping you achieve incredible growth. Until next time, make sure you're always seeking the expert in you, and God bless. Have an amazing day.